This is still News Central here from our news hub on the John Hammond Street to some rather unpleasant stories where the death of Ghanaian football star Raphael Dwamena sparked conversations on the need for football associations to take steps to protect football players. A 28-year-old joins a growing and disturbing list of sportsmen who suffered the unfortunate fate over heart complications. One footballer who managed to survive and opted to quit football entirely was Fabrice Mwamba.
I had to decide if I want to, well, the idea to have a pacemaker was more like if I want to go carrying on playing, the only way I was allowed to play was having a pacemaker put in. And to be honest with you, it's the best decision I ever make, so I don't regret it at all.
Well, you went to, it was Belgium, I think,
yes,
wasn't it? Where I saw a specialist in Belgium, and it was that specialist that said you shouldn't play. Yeah,
but not even that, it's just that I saw the guys in London Bridge and Professor Schilling who implanted my thing. He just said, listen, I advise you to is don't bother to go back. Just to have a second opinion, going to Belgium from this guy who created the pacemaker himself, he said, listen, you going back is like you're running to your own grave, so there's no point fighting it. So even though it's a hard pill to swallow, but for me, it's better to be safe than to be sorry.
So that's one person who managed to survive. Yao Fusulabi is with our sports desk. He's joining me in studio for a conversation. So Yao, a case of Raphael Dwamena, but he's not the only person who unfortunately has had to suffer a demise in such a manner.
Yeah, so I could just take you all the way back to 1989. That was one of the first times that we heard something like that. It was a novelty in Africa until Samu Kwaraji passed on in 1989 in a game against Angola in Lagos, actually. And that was actually a really horrid moment. And after him, there was Mark Vivian Foe, who also passed on in the Confederations Cup, which made widespread news across the world. But, I mean, after those two Africans, there's been a few others spotted across the world. The latest one, Christian Eriksen, at the Euros, and then Fabrice Mwamba, who we saw speaking about how he survived, and then Enoch Mwipu, who this year as well, the Zambian, had to quit Brighton. Had to quit Brighton because of his heart complications. So yeah, there's been a few issues. Dwamena isn't the first person, and in football. Unfortunate,
but we're learning that there's some new development as well in relation to his passing associated with the Albanian FA and all of that.
Yeah, so I think that generally what they are doing is that the Albanian Football Association, in conjunction with the Albanian governments themselves, have asked the club, that's KG Ignatia, to bring out medical reports of Raphael Dwamena and what really went on in that game and how he dropped dead on the pitch, which is something that is probably happening for the first time in Albania. And so they just had to ask for the medical reports, try to go through it and begin investigations just to ascertain what the main issue was.
He was a big deal for the Black Stars. Let's just touch briefly on the Black Stars because we know the international games are coming through shortly. But we'll come back to the Black Stars shortly. But let's get on to Zoom now. Dr. Prince Pambo is a sports and exercise medicine physician. He's joined us via Zoom for a conversation. Many thanks, Doc, for speaking to us. I mean, what does this latest incident mean for the talk that has been on for years about the need for federations to try and do just a bit more to protect sportsmen, especially those with heart conditions?
Thank you so much for having me. It just goes to confirm and probably strengthen that position that pre-competition medical assessment at any level should be mandatory, and I've always maintained that we can't run away from it. At the level of Confederation African Football, we try to enforce this, and any CAF sponsored tournament, pre-competition medical assessment is mandatory, right from blood works, physical examinations, cardiovascular examinations. Our premiership, we try to do same as well. So it is just reinforces the fact that yes, these things are real, and we can take some of these precautions.
But it's a dicey conversation. Some were diagnosed of this condition, managed to play on and survive. Wanko Kano is perhaps one of the examples that readily come to mind. There are those who also make the arguments to the use of pacemakers and whether or not there should be a generally accepted way to go about this. What should be the way forward, particularly for players, because nobody wants to see their teammate, family member die on the pitch in such horrid manner?
Right. So these cases are not just it's not a one jacket fit all kind of situation. Each condition would have the way it has to be handled. And even if the conditions are the same, just the fact that it's happening in different people and how your body responds to it will tell how we handle it. So there are some you will check and you realize that yes, if you implant an ICD in there, the person will be able to play with, of course, some measures being put at any stadium the person would have to play. There are also some, you tell the person that, look, whatever ICD we are putting in there is just enough to help you go about daily life activities, but not to be able to do sports that will put a lot of stress on the heart itself. So there are lots of normal people in the population walking around with pacemakers and ICDs, okay, and it's just fine at that stage. But if they went ahead to do sports, it was going to complicate things for them. So depending on the severity of the condition and how your body is handling it, then doctors are in the position to prescribe exactly what will be helpful to you.
Let's try and bring this home just a bit, because sports people are generally regarded as one of the fittest individuals you can find anywhere in the world. Yet they are having to suffer conditions like this. What then does this mean for the ordinary person? Persons who might want to exercise a bit but are getting to find out that, hey, this is a sportsman and he suffered a cardiovascular disease and died in such a horrible manner.
Right. So to set the records straight, a lot more people who are sedentary, a lot more people who are not sports people, a lot more people who are physically inactive are dying of cardiovascular problems compared to sports people who are dying. I can assure you that the day we lost Raphael, probably close to 1,000 people who are not physically active also died of cardiovascular related cases. But because these are not should I say, superstars, you don't get to hear it. So if there's anybody listening to me out there, the worst thing you can do to yourself in life is to decide that you will not be physically active. That should be established.
Doc, many thanks, and for the advice as well. Let me just return briefly to Yao Fusulabi, who's in studio with me. On the Black Stars, we know we have two crucial games ahead. There's been a lot of storms surrounding the Black Stars in the lead up to these two games. But how important is it going into these qualifiers that we win?
Well, it's these two qualifiers are incredibly important, just because these are two qualifiers that leads us into a World Cup qualifying format that we've never played in before. It's a new format. 9 teams are expected to go to the World Cup this time in 2026, and so every point matters. I mean, there's no opportunity to win, say, home games and try to draw away and get into the playoff phase and all of that. It's a new format. You have to win every game. You have to make sure you are performing in every game, and that's what the Black Stars need to do at this point. And they need to lay down the marker as early as possible. This is a game against Madagascar at the Barbara Stadium. They fly out to Comoros to play them on Tuesday, and hopefully they pick up all points to make it 6 points, and then Ghana can be in a comfortable place, particularly heading into an AFCON where they'll be needing that level of confidence to push them in there.
We know that our away form has not been so stellar, particularly under Chris Hughton. The call-up, the players, it continues to come up under a lot of scrutiny and the likes. And attacking power particularly has been of concern. Does it look like we can get the goals this time around?
So that's one of the biggest problems with Chris Hughton's side. The goals have not really come. There's just been one game that we've had more than 2 goals, and that was the game against Liberia in Accra. And so if that's anything to go by, then it will be difficult. But the Black Stars have to dig deep. I mean, there's the call-ups have been handed to Andre. Andre is back in the squad. Jordan, there's Semenyo, and also Iñaki Williams, who are all playing really well in their clubs. And so if they can come here and give us maybe just about 70% of what they give out there, the goals should come.
Yao, many thanks. That's Yao
so
Fusulabi with a sports desk here at TV33 FM, providing a bit more details there for us as to exactly what to expect when the Black Stars go into 2 crucial games for the World Cup qualifiers.